Chapter 8. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision. And it came to pass, when I saw, that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beasts might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will, and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practised and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And it came to pass, when I, even I, Daniel, had seen the vision, and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid, and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, Understand, O Son of Man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me, and set me upright. And he said, Behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper, and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes. But he shall be broken without hand. And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore, shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. And I, Daniel, fainted, and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up, and did the king's business. And I was astonished at the vision, but none understood.
Now, from verse 1 to verse 2, it is 2 years after the events in chapter 7. So between chapter 7 and we just did to this chapter, 2 years passed. So we're going to wait 1 minute for 2 years. Okay. As it is the third year of Belshazzar. In chapter 1, you will see the first year. In verse 1, do you see the end of the third year? That's how we know that it is 2 years. Because 1 year minus 3 years is 2 years. Right. Chapter 7 will have occurred around 553 BC, and chapter 8 occurred around 551 BC. It is 12 years after the feast that happened in chapter 5, when the handwriting appeared on the wall. Therefore, in reality, chapter 8 should really fall chronologically between 4 and 5. The vision occurred in Shushan, in Elam, or Shushan the palace, which is in Persia, which is the same place that Esther was. Alright, so that's where this is actually taking place. It's a mountainous region, West Asia, 250 miles east of Babylon. Now, from verses 3 to 4, this vision gives more detailed picture of the two next world empire in succession. All of the chapters before, we saw a lot of weight placed on the first empire, which is Babylon, the gold or the lion. And then they will jump, they'll just mention silver and brass. And then go down to the last empire, which is the dreadful or the horror beast, or the one in the latter days in the end times, which is in our time. But none of the vision went into details about the second kingdom and the third kingdom. And that's what this actually deals with. Alright? They deal with the next two empires. It is the last Eastern Empire, which is the ram with 2 horns. In verse 20, we are told that the 2 horns are the 2 kings, which is the Medes and the Persian. And we can note this by the following. Verse 3 says, the ram represents a combined state instead of a separate state. History agrees with this. Verse 3, 1 horn is higher than the other. That's exactly the bear that was lifted on one side. Alright, the Medes and the Persian. And we can see that too as well, because one was more powerful than the other. Verse 4, the ram pushed in every direction. The Persian came from beyond the Euphrates, and with the eastern power. This river separates the east from the west, makes both scriptural and geographical division. So the Persians came and they conquered Babylon, the Syrian area, Asia Minor. They conquered the entire of Egypt, the Palestine area, right back up to the Caspian Sea, that entire area. So there is no combination of nation that could withstand the might of the Persian bear, which is now the same as the power of the ram. So let me just quickly show you another quick chart that is here. Good. Everybody can see this? You guys think I can see it? It's too small. Let me just bring it up a little brighter than for you. Better now? Guess not. Right. So, let me just follow through. In chapter 2, the head of gold is the same as in chapter 7, the lion with the eagle wing. Alright? Which we know beyond a shadow of a doubt is Babylon. However, chapter 8 now puts weight on these 2 centerpieces. So the silver, which is the arms, because one is Medes and one is Persia, so that's the arms, is the bear that is lifted on one side in chapter 7. In chapter 8, it is the ram with the 2 horns. So the ram with the 2 horns is the bear that is lifted on one side or the other, or the chest with the 2 arms. All making sense now? Yes. Alright? So, which is the Medes and the Persian Empire. Alright? So, the vision sees it as silver, sees him as bear, sees him as ram. It's the same thing. Same thing. Then the brass empire, which is the belly and thighs, is the leopard with the 4 heads and the 4 wings. But this is the he-goat that has a great horn that breaks. When the great horn breaks, it becomes 4 horns. Now watch this. 4 horns here on the he-goat is the same as the 4 wings, which is the 4 head on the leopard. Make sense? Which is the same as the brass belly and thighs, which is the Grecian Empire. Alright? So the he-goat is the Grecian Empire. So this chapter is focusing on chapters on the silver, which is Medes and Persian, and people like Alexander the Great right up to Antioch Epiphanes IV, which is the Grecian Empire. This period is really the 400 silent years. So it may be silent between Malachi and Matthew in God not speaking, but it is mentioned here in Daniel as to what is taking place in the 400 silent years. You all understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Alright? The reason why it's silent because God don't tell you what's going on. So you got to talk because he gave Daniel, that's what the whole of chapter 8 put weight on. Alright? Now, let me just add some value to that in terms of, because you'll see two little horn. In chapter 7, the little horn would be the one from the fourth world power. In chapter 8, the little horn is from the third kingdom, which is the kingdom of brass, which is the he-goat. You understand what I'm saying? So what happened is the little horn here is the forerunner to the little horn here. The difference is, this little horn is coming as the fifth horn, because you have four of them and he becomes the fifth. This little horn is the 11th. You have 10 in power and then 11 come forth. So it is not the same individual. Alright? The little horn in chapter 7 will persecute God's people for 42 months. That's the time and dividing of a time, which is 3.5 years. The little horn in chapter 5 will persecute God's people for 2,300 days. That is just over 6 years. Alright? So you've got to understand, and that happens during the time of the Grecian Empire, not the time of the end time empire. You all understand what I'm saying? Alright? So let me just run that back again. The Grecian Empire is chapter 8. The little horn here is the fifth after the four horns, which is the same as the four heads on the leopard, which is the same as the four wings on the leopard in chapter 7, which is the brass empire. Make sense? The little horn here comes up after you have 10. He is the 11th that destroyed 3, and that is the last world empire. This little horn is not part of the last world empire. Okay? So you've got to, it repeats, and it's very important for you to see the distinction, because this little horn is going to persecute the Jewish people in a kindergarten stage, like what the world will be persecuted by in terms of the Antichrist of the future. Alright? So I need to identify that for you to be able to see. Again, same idea that's coming. The ram with the two horns is the bear, is the silver. The he-goat is the Grecian Empire, which is the horror beast. Alright? So very important for you to see. Again, same thing again. Just showing you different charts to show you this is chapter 2, this is chapter 7, and these two here, well, the he-goat look like he fading away, but these two here is the center empires. Alright? So you have chapter 2, chapter 7, chapter 8, all referring to the same image. They're all explaining Daniel chapter 2. Alright? Good. So I need to lay that foundation so when I'm teaching, you'll be able to understand how chapter 8 runs. Because a lot of people mix these up and create real scenario and real problems. Good. So now we're going to look at verse 5. We're back into what is taking place. Verse 5. The he-goat with one horn has the speed of the leopard, which is equivalent to what we saw in chapter 7. And the he-goat is not touching ground. That's the speed that he's actually moving with. He is coming from the west, as the scripture changed from activity from the east to the west. This is the first time west is mentioned in scripture. This he-goat has the youthfulness of the victorious Alexander the Great. History tells us that the Persians attacked the Greeks, and a revenge attack by the Greeks was now in fury. The he-goat breaks the ram with two horns, rendering it powerless, and stamped on the ram as it conquered the Media and Persian Empire. So history says that the Persians went and they attacked the Grecian Empire. And Alexander the Great get mad, and he fly across there, and he busts up the Medes and Persia. Not only does he kill, he stab, he destroys, he dismantles the entire Medes and Persian Empire. So you now have a change in the political party. So we didn't just want the leader to lose power, we want him also to as well to leave office. He was fired the job. The people must throw him out of the house. Anyway, I'll leave that to Alright. And I have the actual dates and so on that is mentioned in terms of when this actually took place and the battle that happened. In verse 8, there's where he stamps upon them and so on like that. In verse 8, we find that from verse 8, the he-goat reaches the height of his power, and then the horn gets broken. So this front horn that is attacking, and after he destroyed the Medes and Persian and conquered the entire world, the horn is actually broken. Alright? That is when Alexander the Great unexpectedly gets a virus and dies at age 32. And when he dies, 4 horn replaces the role of the 1 horn. That 4 horn is the 4 generals that split the kingdom in 4, which is the 4 wings, which is the 4 head on the leopard. You all see how it making sense? Alright? That is where that actually takes place. Alright? And they now split the kingdom into 4 distinct situations, or 4 distinct empires that are there. So the future historical situation of God's people is communicated in prophetic vision of the image of the 4 beasts in chapter 7, the 2 beasts in chapter 8, the dream of the image in chapter 2, as the vision of the 4 beasts in chapter 7, both refers to the 4 successive Gentile empire under which God's people will have to survive, which is Babylon, Medes and Persia, and Greece. So we know we had already the pass of Babylon to the Medes and Persia. Now we have a pass from the Medes and Persia to the Grecian Empire. Alright, and by the time of Christ it will hit the Roman Empire. The vision of chapter 8 deals with the experience of God's people under the rule of the Medes and Persia, represented by the ram, and under the Greeks, representing the he-goat. The larger horn of chapter 8 verse 8 symbolizes Alexander the Great, he who dies at age 33. Alright, you will notice here that he's actually destroyed without hands. In one of the verses before, when he's actually destroyed. At age 33, and then of course, like I said, the kingdom is split into 4. In verse 8, we find that when it is split into 4, and then you have this other horn. Out of the 4 now, you have another horn coming up. So when the 4 is in place, you have another horn that comes up, which is the 5th horn. That 5th horn, after the 4 horn, is the second little horn that I showed you in the chart before. So the little horn in Daniel chapter 8, as I mentioned, is different from the one that we see in chapters 7. Okay? Good. Verse 9 and 10, he waxed great, he magnifies himself, and really, this is the rise of this guy that is called Antioch Epiphanes IV. He actually begins to lambaste the things of God in history. He shuts down the temple worship. And the history shows that every year, people go up and sacrifice in Jerusalem. He went into the Holy of Holies, shut down worship, and sacrificed a swine on the Jewish altar. And that is what is the precursor that is called the abomination of desolation. He caused the daily sacrifice to be taken away and the place of the sanctuary to be cast down. As a matter of fact, he actually shut down worship in Jerusalem for about 3.5 years in history. So the host is given to him, the daily sacrifice, the transgression. Note also he cast down truth and to the ground, and all of the things that is practiced and prospered. Alright? And then you have a discussion. Daniel gets to see saints talking to one another. So we doesn't even discuss in heaven what also taking place too as well. Alright? They discuss what is taking place in heaven. And he talks about the daily sacrifice is stopped. The transgression of desolation is given to both the sanctuary to be trodden underfoot. So Antioch Epiphanes shut down the worship that is taking place in heaven. And the period of time is 2,300 days. Now I know there are a lot of people that take the 2300 days and say it's 2300 years, and they come up with all kind of future prophecy as to when the coming of the Lord is going to be, and they run into all kind of problems. In case you don't know, 2300 days is just over 6 years. And if you go back in the history, he had actually invaded Jerusalem and shut down Jewish worship and take over the temple for just about 6.5 years there, about almost 7 years. Alright? Which is supported in history. Alright? Daniel is asked, he actually begins to ask when these things are going to be. He wanted to understand what was actually taking place and what is happening. In verse 17 to 19, there is the presence of a heavenly being that is clothed in holiness that caused Daniel to be slain as he fall on his face. And anytime you get a vision by a supernatural being, you also will have that actually taking place too as well. From verse 20, we get into the interpretation of what is taking place. Daniel is told plainly by Gabriel without comparative language. The ram is the Medes and Persia. The he-goat is the king of the Grecian. It is what? The first king. The horn between the eyes is the first king. That is Alexander the Great in history. When he is broken, it will be split into 4. Those are the 4 generals that I mentioned before. And in the latter time of their kingdom, this latter time here is not speaking of the end times. It is the latter time of their kingdom, which is the Grecian Empire. That is Antioch Epiphanes that will come. He will be a king of fierce countenance. He will be a king that will be a transgressor. He will have dark sayings, which means he'll be highly involved in witchcraft and so like that. He shall stand up. Right? His power shall be mighty, but it shall not be of his own power. He shall destroy wonderfully. He shall prosper and practice and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Who is the mighty? Who is the holy people? That's the leadership of the Jewish nation and the Jewish nation. Are you there with me? Right? Through his policy, that way pass in parliament, he shall cause what to prosper? Craft to prosper in his hand. He shall magnify himself in his heart, and he shall even attack the prince of princes. Alright, so this is again what Antioch Epiphanes had done. But I want for you to see, he's a type. He's a kindergarten stage of what the future world empire and the future world ruler is going to also do as well. So I have all of that also mentioned here in scripture. The vision in verse 26, the vision is of the evening and the morning, which I tell you is true, but Daniel is told to shut it up because from where Daniel is living is going to be many days in the future. Alright? We of course is able to identify and review and see that these things has actually come to pass. He became sick certain days, like I said, he takes sick leave. After he rose up, he went and he did the king's business. So let me tell you, even Daniel at an age was still working. And he was involved in the things of God. He was involved in ministry, getting supernatural transportation, and still working somewhere. Are you there with me? Alright? He was astonished at the vision, but none understood it, which means he told people about it. Alright? He told people about what was actually happening and what was actually taking place. So he's told to shut up the vision because it is yet for the future. Well, it is due to happen in our time. Are you there with me? Alright? So again, let me just re-highlight that the goat is the bear, which is the silver, which is the Medes and Persia. Sorry, the ram, alright, which is with the 2 horns, which is the Medes and the Persia, which matches the 2 arms. The he-goat, which when the 1 horn breaks into 4 horn, is the Grecian Empire, which is the leopard with the 4 heads and the 4 wings. Why am I putting a lot of weight on chapter 8? Because a lot of people teach this and they make a lot of mistake with it because they don't realize that it's only focusing on the center empire and not the last empire. So there is no reference to except to say that it is the forerunner or the kindergarten stage of what the future one is going to be like. If you think them